Life as the Avengers Housekeeper. Sewing Circle. By Married to My Phone on Tumblr. Read by just some fangirl. Ow, Peter muttered, and you rolled your eyes at the boy leaning back on the couch, continuing with your embroidery. Ouch! You dropped your embroidery hoop with an exasperated sigh as you turned to Peter, who was completely focused on his own hoop. Peter, I told you that you could use the thimbles. There's no shame, you said, and Peter dropped his own hoop into his lap and sent you a sad look. But it looks stupid and they mess with my grip, so I keep dropping it, Peter said, and you let out a sigh, shaking your head as you reached into the sewing kit, which really was just a cookie tin, and pulled out a small case of thimbles. It's either that or you keep bleeding from your fingers, 'cause you can't aim the needle for shit. Now go on, pick whatever color you want, you said, shaking the box and handing it to Peter, who let out a sigh but reluctantly got the red and blue thimbles, putting them on his fingers before continuing. Well, hello, grandmas. Do you guys want some tea and biscuits? Maybe some hard candy while you're at it? Tony said when he walked into the living room to see Peter and you doing embroidery. Ha ha, get some original jokes, why don't you? You muttered, now looking up from your hoop. Mr. Stark, look, I'm making the Avengers logo, Peter said, raising his embroidery hoop toward Tony with a proud look on his face. He was still in the process of filling out his sketch, and a lot of the stitching was very messy, some thread being loose, but it was a work in progress. Besides, it was Peter's first attempt. Wow, looks just like it, Tony said, barely even glancing at the embroidery, but Peter grinned anyway and went back to work. Look what I'm making, you said, raising your own hoop to show Tony with a proud smile on your face. It was a very flowery and pink middle finger. You have such talent, Tony said with a roll of his eyes as he took his jacket that was laying on a chair. Thank you, I agree, you said as you went back to your own work. Another home economics project, Peter? Natasha asked as she walked into the room, going over to the bookshelf and skimming through all the covers. Yep, I'm planning to make a few more after this so I can give some to Ned and MJ, Peter said, poking his finger once more, but was happy to see that the thimble he put on protected him. I don't understand why a science school is teaching its students how to embroider. Shouldn't you be learning robotics or something? Tony asked as he put his jacket on before looking for his keys. Well, I think it's great they're giving you kids the chance to learn other skills. Hobbies are good, so you don't always put all your energy into work, you said, and Peter looked up and smiled at you. Hey, speaking of hobbies, you should join me and Ned. We got this new Lego set, and I was thinking, absolutely not, get back to stitching, you said with a smile, and Peter nodded. Yes? Yes, of course, he said. And the two continued with their work. How do you even have the patience to make all this? Isn't it tedious? Natasha asked after finally picking a book and sitting down on the couch as she watched the two continue their work. Most things are, but depending on the person, it can be relaxing, you said with a shrug, and Peter nodded in agreement. I like it. It's nice making pretty things and being able to say you made it, Peter said, and Natasha let out a hum, continuing to watch the two of you. Do you want to give it a shot, Nat? You asked, after a few minutes of silence with Natasha just watching them. Sure, why not? Natasha said with a shrug, setting down the book she didn't end up reading. I mean, how hard can it be? Natasha said, and you smiled, grabbing the bag on the table and rummaging through it before taking out another embroidery hoop. What design do you want to make? You asked, and Natasha furrowed her eyebrows in thought. I don't know, anything, I guess, Natasha said, and you smiled and reached into the bag once more. I have some stencils. Pick one, sketch it out on the cloth, then tell me when you're done. I'll teach you how to thread a needle and some basic stitches, you said, handing all the materials to Natasha, who let out a huff. I know how to thread a needle, she mumbled as she looked through the stencils, picking out a design. Oh God, don't tell me you were becoming old like them, Tony said in a disappointed tone when he walked back in to see that Natasha had joined in after finding his keys. Shush, don't listen to him, Nat. This will be fun. This will be a fun experience, you said, encouraging Nat, who raised an eyebrow at you. It'll be an experience, all right. Well, while you grandmas waste your day creating pictures with thread, I'm going out socializing. You know, like a normal adult, Tony said, and the three gave lazy goodbyes as Tony left. You developed a hobby for embroidering during that time when you were on the run. It was in a park sitting next to an old woman who was crocheting something. You hadn't paid her any mind until the woman made conversation, saying she could tell that you needed a distraction. She offered to teach you how to crochet, and you accepted, though it seemed like crochet was a bit too advanced because your frustration got the better of you. You thought you had driven the poor old woman away, but the next day you found her on the same bench with an embroidery kit. She taught you and gave it to you as a gift, and you had been embroidering to pass the time and keep calm ever since. When Peter came up to you and asked if you knew anything about embroidery, you were absolutely delighted and couldn't wait to teach the boy everything you knew. Leading to now. Brucey, join us, you called out happily when you saw Bruce walking in carrying a box of a bunch of things you didn't care about. Oh, are you guys embroidering? That looks fun, but I'm a bit busy right now, Bruce said, emphasizing the box in his hands. Come on, you've been working all day. Take a break. You can continue whatever you're doing later. Maybe this time you'll finish your last piece, you said, your words grabbing the attention of Natasha and Peter. Last piece? Natasha asked in confusion. Dr. Banner, do you embroider too? Peter asked in excitement, and the scientist smiled sheepishly. Just recently. They taught me, told me it was a good stress reliever, Bruce said, and you grinned at him. And it works, right? You asked, and Bruce laughed as he nodded his head. You know what? Sure, I'll join you guys. Let me just put this away. I'll be back in a sec, Bruce said as he walked back, and you smiled happily. A few minutes passed, and Bruce came back with these cartoonishly large glasses on his face that magnified his eyes to make it look incredibly large. What? Bruce asked, furrowing his eyebrows. When Peter was shaking, trying desperately to hold his laugh while Natasha was looking away, hand covering her mouth to hide the smile and potential laugh bubbling up. What in the hell are you wearing? Bruce jumped when a voice appeared behind him. He turned to see Bucky, who was looking at him in confusion, while Sam was next to him, laughing his butt off as he held onto the wall to keep himself up. Oh my God, that is the best thing I've ever seen. Smile, Sam said, taking his phone out and wrapping his arm around Bruce's shoulder and taking a selfie with him, giving a thumbs up with his tongue sticking out before taking the photo. Give him a break. Bruce, I think you look great, and you're very practical, you said, and Bruce smiled happily at you. Thank you, he said, walking over to the three on the couch and setting himself down, taking out his unfinished embroidery and grabbing a hoop from the bag on the table. Oh, is this a knitting circle or something? Sam asked, situating himself behind the couch and looking at whatever the four were doing. Embroidering, actually. See, knitting is really different from embroidering, but they have similarities. Like, okay, kid, a simple no would have been fine. Sam cut off Peter from rambling. Would you two gentlemen like to join us? You asked, looking at the two who glanced at each other. I'll pass. I don't think I'd be any good at it, Bucky said, and you waved your hand dismissively in response. Of course you can't see yourself being good at it now. You don't know anything about it at all. But if you try, you could surprise yourself, you said, and Bucky shifted uncomfortably where he stood. It just seems like such a delicate thing, and I'm not, Bucky said, and you pouted at the statement. Nonsense, man. Come on. Get your sewing pants on. We're gonna do some stitching, Sam said, grabbing Bucky's shoulders and leading the reluctant man over to the couch. Really? Natasha raised an eyebrow at Sam's willingness. Yeah, why not? Besides, I want to make what you're making, Sam said, pointing to your embroidery, which caused you to grin and sit up, high-fiving the man who laughed. What do you say, Bucky? You asked, turning to the man who still looked hesitant, but seeing the encouraging looks on everyone's face that was directed toward him made him sigh. Fine, but it's not going to be good, he said reluctantly as he sat down next to Sam. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, pick a stencil, you said, taking a bunch of stencils and spreading them out on the table. They were all silently embroidering, occasionally making comments and asking you for help. But it was mostly peaceful. You glanced over at Nat, who had been continuously huffing the past 15 minutes. When you looked over, you saw that Nat was actually blowing her hair out of her face. Every time she tried, though, it kept falling back. And it was irritating her to no end. When Nat realized that someone was staring at her, she raised her head and furrowed her eyebrows at you, who was smiling at her. What? She asked, and you simply reached back into the bag on the table and took out a black headband. You got up from where you were sitting and kneeled in front of Natasha, about to put the headband on her when the woman flinched and grabbed your wrists to stop you. What do you think you're doing? She asked with a raised eyebrow, and you rolled your eyes. Helping you. Your hair is obviously bothering you, and this will help keep it out of your face. Just look at me and Bruce, you said. It was then that Natasha finally took notice of both of their appearances. Your hair was put back in a bun with a garter used as a headband, keeping your hair back, while Bruce had one of those large, toothy hair clips holding his hair. She hadn't noticed that because of the huge goggles and how distracting they were. Come on, it'll help you work better, and you'll look pretty while doing it, you said, and Natasha stared at you for a moment before sighing and taking the headband and putting on. Better? You asked with a teasing smile on your face. Nat looked away and nodded in embarrassment. You didn't want to push it, so you just patted Nat's shoulder and went back to your seat. We had headbands this whole time? I've been trying to push my hair away for the past few hours, Peter said when he saw the headband on Natasha's head. Don't worry, Peter, I have more, you said, reaching into the bag again and taking out a soft cotton headband that had bunny ears on them. Ah, nice, Peter said, catching the headband when you threw it and eagerly putting it on. How do I look? Peter asked, raising his arms out, and you smiled and gave him a thumbs up. You look great, buddy, you said, and Peter smiled once more. Hey, that's not fair. I want a headband that makes me look pretty too, Sam said, when he noticed almost everyone had something to keep their hair in order. As pretty as you already are, Sam, I'm afraid a headband won't do that much for you, you said, patting Sam's head, and the man rolled his eyes. How about Bucky? Want to feel pretty? Sam asked, nudging the man with his elbow, which caused him to grunt because it made him poke himself with the needle. I'm good. My hair's short enough that it isn't distracting, he said, and you nodded and they all went back to what they were doing. Is there a meeting we weren't told about or something? Everyone looked up to see the twins walk into the room with both a confused and amused look on their faces. It's rare to see everyone in the same room like this, especially with everyone embroidering? Wanda asked, not sure how to feel about this sight before her. You guys formed a little club and didn't even think to inform us about it? Pietro asked with an offended gasp, placing a hand on his chest with a dramatic hurt look on his face. You're very welcome to join us if you guys want to. There's plenty of room for everyone, you said with a smile, and the twins glanced at each other before looking back at them. Sure, Wanda said with a shrug, going over to join them. I have no plans, Pietro said, following after his sister. Here, you said, reaching into the bag and pulling out two hair ties, which you handed to the siblings. You guys might need it. The two looked around to see if everyone else had their hair up, and before taking the hair ties without another thought. Wanda tied her hair into a tight ponytail while Pietro pulled back the top part of his hair and tied it up before sitting it down. What else do you have in that bag? Bruce asked, finally taking note of how much you pulled out from that bag in the span of such a short time. It's never ending. There's a black hole inside. I reach in and it gives me whatever I need, you said, wiggling your arms mysteriously at Bruce, who chuckled and shook his head. A few more minutes passed by, with everyone doing their embroidery. They didn't realize it yet, but they were all very much enjoying this time just embroidering with everyone. Even though they weren't speaking, but you noticed, and you couldn't stop the constant smile on your face because of it. Pietro, give me the red thread. You've been hogging it this whole time, Wanda said in an annoyed tone, slapping her brother's arm. But I need it, Pietro complained, and Wanda rolled her eyes. Then take what you need, but don't hog it. I need to use it too, Wanda said, and Pietro gestured over to the amount of thread on the table. There are so many red over there. Take one of those and get off my ass about it, Pietro said, shoving his sister's head away. I need that specific shade, Wanda said, shoving her brother back. Hey, is this okay? Bucky asked, ignoring the rowdiness of the twins as he showed you his work. You looked up from your hoop and gasped when you saw Bucky's. Bucky, this is so pretty. I didn't even teach you how to outline, but you did so good. See, if you never tried this out, you would have never found out you had this talent in you. You're a natural, you said complimenting him with a proud smile. And Bucky sent you a small smile of his own before going back to finish his flower. What about mine? You think it's cool? Sam asked, showing you the pizza he was making on his. Oh, did you think of that on your own? I don't think I have that stencil. Good job, I love creativity, you said, patting Sam on the shoulder and giving him a grin which made the man smile happily. Hear that? I'm creative, Sam said to Nat, who let out a light chuckle in response. When the front door creaked open, everyone stopped what they were doing and their eyes fell on their team leader, who walked in with a tired look on his face, hanging his keys on the rack and taking off his jacket. Realizing the silence, Steve turned to the living room, shocked to see that everyone was gathered together with their hairs tied up and embroidering. They all stared at each other, and Steve simply shook his head and approached everyone. They watched as the man sat down with a huff and reached to grab the bag on the table, looking inside and ruffling through it before taking out 2 blue and red hair clips with sequences and butterflies on them. They watched as the man put them in his hair in wonder before he grabbed some cloth and an embroidery hoop of his own. "Pass the blue thread, please," he said, and just like that, everyone went back to what they were doing. You passed the thread that Steve needed and gave the man a smile, which he thankfully returned. "Long day?" you asked, and a small laugh left Steve's mouth. "You could say that," Steve said, and you gave him a supportive smile, patting his leg before leaning back into the couch. No. Everyone looked up when Tony walked into the compound, disappointed that you had managed to convince everyone to join your little sewing circle. "God, how old are you people? It's a Friday night. The world is quiet, and instead of drinking and having fun, you're all embroidering," Tony said, and they all stared at him for a moment before swiftly ignoring him. "Steve, knock some sense into these people for me, would you?" Tony said, trying his best to ignore the shiny hair clips in Steve's hair. "If you can't beat them, join them. Tony, try it. You might like it," Steve said with a shrug, continuing his work and showing it to Natasha, who nodded in approval before showing Steve her own work. Tony let out a scoff of disbelief, watching as everyone continued to do their embroidery. They were a team of the most dangerous people on Earth, meant to be protectors of the world, yet here they were, wasting time and whatever, Tony said with a roll of his eyes as he went over to sit on the floor before the couch because the couch was full, grabbing an embroidery hoop of his own and starting his own work. You hid a smile on your face as you looked around you, watching everyone be too focused in their own embroidery to notice you were staring. This was nice. You wish they had more moments like these, but instead of wishing for more, you'll just enjoy what you already have. End of story. I hope you enjoyed that, because that was pretty adorable. Just all the Avengers together in a sewing circle and just bonding and hanging out. Pretty fun it's a pretty fun, pretty cute scenario if you ask me. Anyway, again, hope you enjoyed. Till next time.